And welcome. I got another video today. We're going to be talking about Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, I've been playing the game a lot, and I've played it from launch, before launch. I was really excited for this game, and now that I've done the game on one playthrough, I did the game on another playthrough with my brother. I'm now doing an honor mode playthrough, and that has been a journey of itself, but it's been such a rewarding journey. I haven't finished it quite yet, but I'm on the latter stages of it, so perhaps I'll be able to finish that soon. So this video is talking about honor mode, specifically in Baldur's Gate 3, and we'll probably have some spoilers throughout the entire game. I'll be probably bringing up specific events that are heavy spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3, so make sure to probably play it, pick it up. I think it might be on sale right now. I'm not entirely certain. But this is going to be a discussion of honor mode in Baldur's Gate 3, and I got a lot of footage that's just going to be just footage of the game, might not be very particularly exactly what I'm talking about, so there could be some spoilers in that regard too, not just what I'm talking about, but what you might see. So hopefully you enjoy. First, let's start by explaining what is honor mode in comparison to the other difficulties in Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 has various different amounts of difficulties in the game. There's Explorer for, people who just want to experience, bits and pieces of the game without having the difficult combat stuff going on with it. It has balance mode, which I played my first playthrough that way because I had played Divinity Original Sin 2, and that beginning was unbearably difficult because I didn't understand the game at the time. Tactician, at the time of launch, was the hardest difficulty of the game, and then eventually they introduced honor mode. Honor mode is Tactician with a few boss creatures getting extra abilities, legendary actions or legendary reactions depending on what they decided to do in that scenario. Also, you only have one save. You can't make multiple saves. You can't go into a scenario, save beforehand, do the scenario, and if it doesn't turn out your way, you can't just reload that save. It will save at any moment that it might think that you're trying to scum it. And that is where the difficulty really lies in the game. What this forces the player to do when playing on honor mode is to understand the game as best as possible. Knowing what could be around the next corner is important. Knowing what things you should be using in certain scenarios is also important. And, well, taking a lot of long rests is extremely important. But not everything is meant to be that difficult. It's not meant to be a game that is impossible to beat, but it's also a game that is meant to be challenging at times. And the hardest challenge is being able to live with the decisions that you made throughout the game. It's a game that, when I did my first playthrough, I told myself I was never ever going to reload a save for any reason whatsoever. But even I found myself pretty early on in Act 2 realizing that that would be a very difficult thing for me to do. In Act 2, obviously, you go to the last light inn. Typically, on a normal, a good person playthrough, you get there pretty early into Act 2, and I'm fairly certain on more evil playthroughs it might be something much later down the line. But in Act 2, one of the things that happens is you go to the Last Light Inn and they tell you to go see Isabel. And when you see her, you end up triggering an event where a few creatures appear and Marcus appears. And I should preface this with, back when I first played the game, I ended up skipping the mountain pass entirely, so I came into this area probably severely under-leveled, and everything was difficult. Isabel ended up being kidnapped, taken, and I had to watch as everybody in the Last Light Inn, for the most part, was dying. And the one person I couldn't accept this with was Damon. And so I did what I would do, reloaded the save, because that's what felt right at the time. But obviously things can change over time, and in honor mode this would be impossible. It was a feat that I would have never been able to reload or do anything. And legendary actions can completely change how a fight plays out. For instance, the Grimforge gains a temporary shield, and whenever that shield breaks, it deals damage to everyone around him. And it is just difficult and brutal. You need to be ready at every fight. And it's not impossible, though. You can look at it and see and figure out and understand one of the crucial things to do is to take a lot of long rests. It's important to rest a lot. It makes the player have to live with the decisions and things that happen. I had a lot of things in Act 2 happen in my honor mode playthrough. I had to do things and prepare for things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought I would have to prepare for. So why would anybody in their right mind want to start an honor mode playthrough? I feel like the way that I can explain it the best is looking at old school RuneScape. They have two game modes, Iron Man mode and Hardcore Iron Man mode. Iron Man mode is a game mode that you can play where you can't trade other players. Everything you get, you have to earn yourself, and they have their own high score leaderboard. And Hardcore Iron Man mode has the same thing. Except when you die, wherever you were on the leaderboard, the high scores, you are saved in the position at your death. And people will create new Hardcore Iron Man if they die because they care about the game mode so much. They will put hundreds, if not thousands of hours into a character, die to perhaps disconnecting or something like that, and completely restart the game. It's something that, it's the rush that people like and enjoy. And that's why I think honor mode does the exact same thing. There's a huge rush and adrenaline when you maybe go into a fight and you forget to prepare exactly how you want to do the fight. It can make your heart drop. So going back to the Grimforge fight, I thought I would cheese the fight, and I did not. I did it wrong. I had a druid, I had an owlbear, I was ready to just go in and kill it in one hit, but I didn't test how to do the cheese, so my heart sank right in that moment. I didn't know what to do about this. This was a difficult fight. But I used every tool at my disposal and was able to come out stronger than before, and it was terrifying, to say the least. Now that I'm almost done my first honor mode playthrough, I feel like that's the way I want to play from now on. It really pushes you to think harder and be very much into the game. You need to understand so many mechanics. You need to have so much available to you at all times. You need to be thinking about this, that. What do you do next? Where do you go? When you have only one save, everything that you do, you need to consider all of the options. Doing this is something that most games don't really tend to make you do a lot of times. It's one of the few times where you get to put in a lot of effort in figuring out how you're going to solve this puzzle, this fight. How are you going to deal with this scenario? And can make things like playing a bard, even though it is great to convince people to not fight you, in honor mode, it has such a much more impact on your playthrough. Skipping fights can be something that not only progresses your gameplay more, getting you levels in this, it is going to help you win the game easier because you've succeeded a fight that might have previously been very difficult to do. Having all of these tools at your disposal is just one part of the game, though. It's just being able to think and how do you deal with these scenarios that gives you the rush to do more in the game. It makes you think outside the box. Sometimes it might make you think I'm just gonna summon 13 creatures to do every single fight. That way they have too many targets to be able to kill me that easily. Sometimes your most terrifying thing might just be an elevator. It is, again, not a perfect game. It's an imperfect masterpiece to me. It is a game that will forever be in my top 5, and honor mode has just solidified that even more. It is a difficulty that is extremely challenging, not impossible, but extremely challenging. Makes you go into fights, look at every little detail. Make sure you understand the mechanics of the fights as well, and read how to do fights. And in a world now where everybody is talking about Elden Ring and its difficulty and where it stems from and what is, people want the game to sometimes be easier, sometimes harder. Difficulties are here and there. I think Honor Mode is a perfect example of why difficulties are good in games, but not necessarily always required to be the only difficulty. If the only difficulty was Honor Mode, then I believe a ton of people would not want to even try the game. Having different levels of difficulty is dependent on the game, and really at the end of the day, sometimes challenging yourself is just fantastic. So should you play Baldur's Gate 3 Honor Mode? It's not for everybody, but I do think and believe that it is one of the most satisfying experiences in gaming. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a like. One thing that I want to maybe probably do sometime is actually give a few things of a discussion as to kind of a story of what happened in my Honor Mode playthrough, because there were a few things that were very small mistakes that ended up having drastic problems for what I had to do. So I'll be probably doing that sometime next week. I got a few other ideas in my head. I plan on at least trying to do one video a week. I don't know how much I can keep up with that, but hey, I'm gonna at least try doing one video a week. If you enjoyed it, let me know. Tell me about your Honor Mode playthrough. Let me know what happened to yours. I'd like to hear the stories, because I'm certain everybody has tons of stories of their Honor Mode playthrough. Anyways, thank you, and have a good one.